the applications that we can use our z-scores for is if we want to compare two different values from different data sets to see relative standing wise where one fell in comparison to the other one. Now here is an example where there's two students. They might have been in the same course but not in the same section of that course. And so let's say they studied together and they both took their tests and they wanted to see how they did comparatively relative to their own class that they took the exam from. So let's say here we had Jan received a score of 82 on an exam, and the mean in her class was a 79 with a standard deviation of 2.1. And Joe received a score of 78 on an exam, and he was in a different class, and that class had a mean of 75 for that test and a standard deviation of 1.8. Who scored higher relative to the rest of the students in their class? So when we want to compare these, we want to see relative standing wise who was further above the mean than the other student, or in terms of relative standing, the comparison. To do that, we can find their z-score. So let's start with the z-score for Jan. So for a z-score, remember it's the number you're changing minus the mean of the distribution divided by the standard deviation. So here for Jan's, we have her score of 82, that's the number we're changing to a z-score, minus the mean from her class, and the mean from her class was 79, divided by the standard deviation from her class, and that was 2.1. Well, 82 minus 79 gives me a value of 3 in the numerator and a 2.1 in the denominator. And when I take 3 and divide it by 2.1, we get a z-score of about 1.43. Next, let's look at the z-score for Joe. The z-score for Joe, his z-score is, well, Joe's score was 78, minus the mean for his class is 75, divided by the standard deviation of his class, 1.8. So that gives us 3 divided by 1.8, or a z-score of 1.67. So looking at comparing their z-scores, Jan's score was 1.43 standard deviations above the mean because it's a positive z-score. And Joe's z-score, his value was 1.67 standard deviations above the mean. So Joe did better relative to the other students in his class.